Time fragmentation theory is one of the lesser-known but deeply fascinating ideas about the nature of time and how we experience it. This theory suggests that what we perceive as a continuous flow of time might actually be made up of discrete fragments, tiny individual moments that are strung together to create the illusion of a seamless timeline. Imagine time as a series of still frames in a movie reel, each one a snapshot, with the motion between frames constructed by our consciousness. The idea of fragmented time challenges the common experience of time as something smooth and unbroken. Instead, it proposes that reality itself might be composed of countless small time slices, each one distinct yet linked in a subtle, almost imperceptible way. This concept invites us to reconsider the flow of time not as an unending river, but as a mosaic of moments, each one complete in itself. The origins of time fragmentation theory are somewhat philosophical, tracing back to early thoughts in metaphysics and modern physics alike. Some interpretations connect it to the quantum realm, where events happen in discrete steps rather than continuously, much like the pixels on a digital screen create the image of a flowing video. These discrete quanta of time suggest that our experience of continuity might be a mental construct, an interpretation our minds create to make sense of the world. One key aspect of the theory is how it relates to our perception and memory. Our brains naturally weave together these fragmented moments, filling in gaps and smoothing transitions to create a coherent sense of past, present, and future. This smoothing effect means that although time may be fragmented on a fundamental level, our subjective experience masks that fragmentation, allowing us to live seamlessly from one moment to the next. Time fragmentation theory also offers a gentle explanation for certain experiences like déjà vu, that strange and fleeting sensation of reliving a moment or feeling that something has happened before. If time is composed of fragments, perhaps occasionally these moments overlap or resonate in ways that create these eerie echoes in our consciousness. From a more scientific perspective, the theory interacts intriguingly with the idea of time quantization, a concept in some approaches to quantum gravity, where time itself is thought to have a smallest measurable unit, a chronon. This idea fits neatly with time fragmentation theory, suggesting that just as energy and matter come in packets, so too might time be fundamentally discrete. As with many theories that stretch beyond our everyday experience, time fragmentation theory raises profound questions. If time is fragmented, what does that mean for causality? The idea that causes lead to effects in a smooth progression. Could fragmented time allow for new kinds of connections between moments, hinting at a universe more interconnected and mysterious than we imagine? Time fragmentation theory invites us to slow down and reflect on how we experience time itself. It gently nudges us to imagine that each moment is precious and distinct, a small gem in the vast necklace of existence. This awareness can be soothing, reminding us that the flow of time is not something to be rushed or feared, but something delicate and intricate, woven together by the fabric of consciousness. Time slip theory is a fascinating and mysterious idea that has intrigued curious minds for many years. At its heart, this theory explores the possibility that people might sometimes experience brief and unexplainable moments of slipping through time, moving, if only for an instant, into a different era or moment that is not their own. The notion of time slips isn't new. Stories of people suddenly finding themselves somewhere they shouldn't be, or witnessing scenes from the past or future, have been told across cultures and centuries. These experiences often come without warning, without clear cause, and leave behind only a faint sense of wonder or confusion. Time slip theory suggests that time might not be as straightforward or linear as we usually think. Instead of flowing like a steady river from past to present to future, time might be more like a vast ocean, with hidden currents and eddies that sometimes pull us gently into a different moment in history. These slips could be brief glimpses beyond our normal timeline, moments where the boundaries between past, present, and future become blurred. Imagine for a moment walking down an old street, when suddenly the sounds, sights, and even smells shift around you. The modern world fades, and you find yourself immersed in a scene from long ago. People dressed in clothes from another century, horse-drawn carriages moving slowly along the cobblestones, the distant echo of voices and laughter from a different age. Then, just as quietly as it came, the vision fades, and you are back in your own time, left wondering if what you saw was a memory, a dream, or something more. One explanation for these experiences is that the fabric of time might be more elastic and complex than we understand. In some places, like ancient battlefields, historic landmarks, or sites where significant events occurred, the layers of time may overlap or resonate, allowing brief windows into moments long past or yet to come. Scientists and philosophers have debated the idea of time as a dimension, similar to space, where movement isn't just forward but could be more fluid under certain conditions. While mainstream physics generally views time as moving forward in a steady progression, some theories in quantum mechanics and relativity hint at the possibility of time behaving in unexpected ways under extreme circumstances. Some theorists speculate that time slips could be linked to anomalies in the space-time continuum, perhaps tiny tears or folds in the fabric of reality that occasionally open up, letting a glimpse of another time slip through. These fleeting moments could be too brief to cause lasting effects, but enough to leave a lasting impression on those who experience them. Stories of time slips often share common themes: feelings of disorientation, a deep sense of déjà vu, or a serene calm that comes with being momentarily outside the usual flow of time. They remind us that time, while often measured in seconds and hours, may hold mysteries far beyond our ordinary experience. While the evidence for time slips is largely anecdotal, with most accounts passed down through personal testimony rather than scientific measurement, the theory invites us to expand our understanding of reality. It suggests that the boundaries of time might be more porous and interconnected than we realize, and that our experience of time is deeply tied to consciousness itself. Ultimately, time slip theory encourages a gentle curiosity, an openness to the unknown, and a willingness to embrace the mystery of time's true nature. It is a reminder that time is not just a ticking clock or a calendar, but a vast and subtle dimension that might hold secrets waiting quietly beneath the surface. Time, as we commonly experience it, feels like a steady unidirectional flow past leading to present, which in turn leads to future. This intuitive experience aligns with what physicists call linear time. Yet, there exists a fascinating and somewhat elusive idea known as nonlinear time perception theory, which invites us to reconsider this familiar flow, suggesting that time might not be as straightforward as it seems. The roots of this theory stretch across many disciplines: philosophy, physics, neuroscience, and even certain spiritual traditions, each offering perspectives on how time might unfold in ways that challenge our everyday experience. At its core, nonlinear time perception theory proposes that time is not necessarily a single fixed dimension that moves only forward. Instead, it might be more fluid, layered, or even cyclical, where moments can overlap, repeat, or exist simultaneously. One way to understand this is to think about memory and anticipation. When you remember a past event, you mentally travel backward in time, re-experiencing sensations and emotions. When you imagine the future, you project yourself forward, often weaving together hopes, fears, and possibilities. These mental journeys hint that time, in our consciousness, doesn't move in just one direction. It folds and bends within our minds. Scientific explorations into nonlinear time also find support in modern physics. In theories such as Einstein's relativity, time is not absolute but relative, dependent on the observer's speed and position. Clocks in different states of motion or gravitational fields tick at different rates. This elasticity of time implies that time's flow is not universal, but experienced uniquely depending on context. More provocatively, some interpretations of quantum mechanics and cosmology suggest that time could be multidimensional or non-sequential at fundamental levels. Events in the quantum realm can appear to influence one another in ways that defy classical temporal order, hinting at a deeper structure where cause and effect might intertwine beyond linear constraints. Nonlinear time perception theory also finds echoes in ancient philosophies and spiritual teachings. Many indigenous and Eastern traditions perceive time as cyclical, seasons returning, life unfolding in repeating patterns, and histories weaving together in interconnected loops. In these views, the past, present, and future are not strictly separated, but part of an ongoing dance. Psychologically, altered states of consciousness, such as dreams, meditation, or trance, can create experiences where time dilates, contracts, or dissolves entirely. In these moments, the usual ticking of the clock loses meaning, and the mind drifts through an expansive, non-linear experience of existence. The theory gently nudges us to question what it means to live in time. If time is not a straight arrow but a tapestry, then our understanding of reality shifts. Moments might not simply pass and vanish, they could coexist, resonate, or even be revisited. This perspective opens doors to new ways of relating to memory, healing, creativity, and presence. Moreover, non-linear time perception invites a serene acceptance of uncertainty. Just as a river curves and bends unpredictably, so too might time's flow. Rather than rushing forward, we can learn to float within its currents, observing without resistance, allowing the layers of time to unfold naturally. In the quiet spaces between moments, where the boundaries of past and future blur, lies a tranquil awareness. Here, the mind can rest, free from the urgency of linear progression, and simply be. It is in this gentle surrender to time's mystery that we find peace, and perhaps, a deeper connection to the rhythm of the universe. Non-linear time perception theory, then, is not just a concept to ponder, but an invitation to slow down, to wonder, and to trust in the mysterious ways time may weave through your dreams and your sleep. Quantum brain entanglement is an intriguing hypothesis that stretches the boundaries between neuroscience and quantum physics. It explores the idea that the mysterious properties of quantum mechanics, particularly entanglement, might play a role in the functioning of our brains, influencing consciousness and cognitive processes in subtle, yet profound ways. The concept begins with the recognition that the brain, at its core, is a complex network of neurons communicating through electrical and chemical signals. But some researchers propose that beneath this biological dance, quantum phenomena may also be at work, linking distant parts of the brain, or even different brains through a kind of entanglement. Entanglement, as we know from quantum physics, describes a state where two or more particles become connected, such that the state of one instantly reflects the state of the other, no matter how far apart they are. This notion raises an intriguing question. Could similar entanglement occur in the biological realm, within the microstructures of the brain? Some theories suggest that tiny quantum events, perhaps involving molecules like microtubules, structures inside neurons, could become entangled. These entangled states might create instantaneous correlations between different neural regions, potentially contributing to the unified experience of consciousness. In this view, entanglement could serve as a bridge, linking information across the brain in ways that classical neuroscience alone struggles to explain. But this hypothesis faces significant challenges. The brain is a warm, wet environment, generally thought to be hostile to fragile quantum states, which typically require isolation and extremely low temperatures to persist. Quantum coherence, the delicate state that allows entanglement, would presumably be disrupted quickly by the brain's noisy biological activity. Despite these obstacles, some scientists remain open to the possibility that quantum processes might operate on timescales or at scales subtle enough to survive within the brain's architecture. If so, it could imply that consciousness is not purely the product of classical electrical signals, but also shaped by the strange and non-intuitive rules of quantum physics. Exploring quantum brain entanglement invites us to reconsider our understanding of mind and matter. It raises profound questions. Could our thoughts, memories, or even feelings be influenced by quantum connections? Might entanglement provide a new lens for understanding how separate minds can share experiences, or how consciousness arises from the physical substrate of the brain? These questions echo the broader mysteries of consciousness itself, a topic that has long eluded definitive explanation. Quantum brain entanglement does not offer simple answers, but rather a fascinating possibility that consciousness and quantum reality are intertwined at a fundamental level. The idea of quantum brain entanglement encourages a delicate balance between skepticism and curiosity. It reminds us that the human mind, with all its complexity and depth, might be connected to the fabric of the universe in ways we are only beginning to glimpse. While the scientific community continues to investigate and debate these concepts, the notion of entangled brains serves as a gentle invitation to imagine a universe where mind and matter are not separate, but deeply connected through the enigmatic principles of quantum mechanics. Precognitive echo theory, a fascinating and gentle concept, emerges from the mysterious folds of time and consciousness. It whispers of moments where the future seems to ripple softly into the present, creating echoes, subtle hints that something yet to come might already be touching the edges of our awareness. The theory finds its roots in the idea that time may not be as rigid or linear as we usually imagine. Instead, time might be more fluid, like a flowing river with gentle currents that occasionally loop back on themselves. In this view, the future isn't just a distant place waiting to arrive, but a landscape that sometimes reaches backward, sending echoes forward through the fabric of time. Precognitive echo theory proposes that under certain conditions, our minds can catch these echoes, fleeting impressions or feelings that seem to anticipate events before they happen. These aren't grand visions or clear images of the future, but rather soft, almost imperceptible murmurs that arise within dreams, intuitive feelings, or sudden moments of déjà vu. Imagine standing quietly by a calm lake at dawn. The water's surface is still, yet you notice faint ripples gently expanding, as if a distant pebble was dropped far away, its impact traveling slowly and softly toward you. In the same way, the future may cast gentle ripples that reach our present consciousness, allowing us a brief glimpse of what lies ahead. The theory suggests that these precognitive echoes may be related to the way our brains process information and memory. Our minds don't only record what has happened, but may also be subtly influenced by what is about to happen, as if information flows bidirectionally through time's river. This notion challenges our common understanding of cause and effect, inviting us to consider a more interconnected dance between past, present, and future. To understand this, it helps to think about how memory works. Normally, memories are reflections of past experiences, stored and recalled when needed. But what if, just occasionally, the mind could access a kind of future memory, a delicate trace of events still to come? These traces may manifest as intuitive feelings or déjà vu experiences, moments when the present feels tinged with the familiarity of something not yet experienced. Such experiences have been reported throughout history, in many cultures and personal stories, often described as dreams that later seem to predict real events, or a sudden strong feeling that something specific will happen, followed by its actual occurrence. While these moments remain elusive and difficult to study scientifically, they resonate deeply with our sense of mystery and wonder about time. Precognitive echo theory gently invites us to consider that our experience of time is more layered than the ticking of a clock. It suggests that the universe may hold hidden channels through which information can flow, softly linking moments across time, and allowing glimpses of the future to gently touch the present. This idea aligns with some modern perspectives in physics and consciousness studies, where time is viewed not as a single unidirectional arrow, but as a complex weave of possibilities. From this vantage point, our minds may sometimes resonate with these possibilities, catching a faint echo of what is yet to unfold. In this way, precognitive echo theory is not just about predicting the future, but about feeling a profound connection to the unfolding tapestry of time itself. It encourages a peaceful acceptance of the unknown, reminding us that time's flow is both mysterious and beautiful, an endless dance where past, present, and future intertwine like soft shadows in a quiet twilight. Temporal loop theory is one of those quietly fascinating ideas that invites us to gently ponder the nature of time itself, how it flows, repeats, and sometimes perhaps folds back on itself. It sits at the crossroads of physics, philosophy, and the mysteries of consciousness, offering a serene yet profound contemplation of what it means to experience time. At its heart, temporal loop theory suggests that time may not be the straightforward one-directional river we often imagine. Instead, time might behave more like a circle, or a spiral, where moments can recur or loop back in a cycle, creating what we might call a temporal loop. This idea is not just the stuff of science fiction, but has roots in real scientific inquiry and ancient philosophical traditions. The concept begins with the observation that many physical processes, from the orbit of planets to the vibrations of atoms, are cyclical in nature. The day repeats itself, seasons come and go, and even biological rhythms, like our heartbeats and sleep cycles, follow repetitive patterns. But what if time itself, at some deeper level, is also cyclical? What if moments, events, or even entire lives replay or echo in loops? Temporal loop theory explores the possibility that these loops could be closed time-like curves, paths in space-time that return to their starting point. Imagine a clock whose hands, instead of moving forward endlessly, eventually circle back to their starting position, not just in a symbolic sense, but physically, in the fabric of reality. This notion gently nudges us to reconsider our intuitive experience of time as linear and irreversible. It proposes that under certain conditions, perhaps near rotating black holes or within the structure of the universe itself, time may fold back on itself, creating loops where cause and effect intertwine in delicate, intricate ways. Such loops raise intriguing questions about causality. If an event loops back to influence its own past, what does that mean for free will, for the flow of history, for our understanding of cause and effect? Temporal loop theory suggests that these loops might not be paradoxical traps, but instead subtle and harmonious features of the cosmos, where events self-consistently reinforce one another in a dance of time. Philosophically, this theory echoes ancient ideas found in many cultures: the eternal return, the cyclical nature of existence, and the notion that life, time and experience are repetitive and continuous. In this light, temporal loop theory offers a comforting rhythm to our understanding of time, connecting modern science with timeless wisdom. In physics, the theory finds resonance in solutions to Einstein's equations of general relativity, where closed time-like curves are mathematically possible. While still speculative and far from proven in practical terms, these models provide a serene glimpse into how time might be more flexible and intricate than our everyday experience suggests. As we drift deeper into thought, the theory invites us to imagine a universe where time's flow is not a relentless march forward, but a gentle cycle, a soothing loop that repeats and renews, allowing moments to be revisited, re-experienced, and re-understood. Temporal loop theory reminds us that the passage of time may hold mysteries still beyond our grasp, mysteries that inspire both wonder and calm. It encourages us to relax into the possibility that the universe is not just a linear story, but a vast interconnected tapestry of moments, ever unfolding, ever returning, in a tranquil and eternal dance. In contemplating these loops, we find not confusion, but a peaceful harmony, a soothing rhythm that lulls us gently toward rest, as we let go of the linear constraints of time and float in the quiet embrace of the cosmos. Collective unconscious activation is a concept rooted deeply in the pioneering work of Carl Gustav Jung, a Swiss psychiatrist who explored the hidden layers of the human psyche. Jung proposed that beneath the surface of our individual conscious minds lies a vast, shared reservoir of ancestral memories and symbols, a collective unconscious that connects all human beings across time and space. This idea is both profound and quietly comforting, suggesting that beneath our personal experiences lies a deeper universal human heritage. At the heart of this concept is the belief that certain symbols, archetypes and motifs, such as the mother, the hero, or the shadow, are not just personal or cultural inventions, but rather inherited elements of the human mind itself. These archetypes emerge spontaneously in dreams, myths, and art across vastly different cultures, hinting at a common psychic structure beneath the diversity of human experience. Collective unconscious activation refers to moments when these shared unconscious contents surface into our awareness, often during altered states of consciousness, like deep meditation, sleep, or even certain forms of creative flow. In these moments, we may experience vivid images, feelings, or insights that seem to transcend our individual lives and connect us with something much larger, a shared human narrative that spans generations. This activation can feel like a gentle awakening, a subtle shift where the boundaries of the self begin to soften. Imagine drifting into a quiet state, where the usual chatter of the mind quiets, and a calm river of timeless symbols begins to flow inward. These symbols are not always easy to interpret, but their presence can evoke a sense of belonging, a feeling that you are part of a much greater story, one written by the collective experiences of humanity itself. Psychologically, collective unconscious activation plays a vital role in personal growth and transformation. When these archetypal energies come to the surface, they invite us to explore deeper aspects of ourselves and our shared humanity. This process can bring healing, as unresolved inner conflicts resonate with universal patterns and find expression in new meaningful ways. It encourages self-reflection and empathy, reminding us that the struggles and triumphs we face are woven into the fabric of human existence. From a neurological perspective, some theories suggest that this activation corresponds to shifts in brain activity during states of relaxation or sleep, where the mind becomes more receptive to unconscious material. These moments offer a bridge between the conscious and unconscious mind, allowing hidden wisdom to emerge gently and naturally. It is a dance between awareness and mystery, where insight arises without force, like the slow blooming of a flower in the quiet light of dawn. The idea of a collective unconscious also resonates with broader spiritual and philosophical traditions, which speak of an interconnected web of life and consciousness. It echoes the ancient understanding that all beings share a fundamental unity, a hidden dimension beneath the surface of apparent separateness. In this light, collective unconscious activation becomes a reminder that beneath our individual identities, we are all connected through the vast, silent depths of the mind. Yet this concept invites us to approach the unconscious with patience and openness. The symbols and images that arise may feel strange or unfamiliar at first, but they carry valuable messages from the depths of our shared psyche. By listening with gentle curiosity, we allow these insights to unfold naturally, like soft waves caressing a quiet shore. Karmic resonance theory is a deeply fascinating concept that explores the subtle and interconnected ways in which our actions, intentions, and energies ripple through time and space. Rooted in ancient philosophical traditions and evolving through modern metaphysical thought, this theory invites us to reflect on how our lives are intricately woven with the consequences of our past deeds, and how those echoes shape the present moment. At its heart, karmic resonance theory suggests that every action we take, whether it be a thought, word, or deed, emits a kind of energetic vibration. These vibrations resonate across the invisible fabric of existence, creating patterns that influence not only our own experiences but also those of others around us. This resonance is not limited by physical proximity or time. Instead, it flows through the interconnected web of cause and effect, linking the past, present, and future in a continuous cycle. The concept draws from the ancient law of karma, which is often understood as the moral principle of cause and effect. However, karmic resonance theory goes deeper, proposing that karma is not merely a ledger of deeds to be balanced, but a dynamic, living energy that echoes in the vibrations we emit and receive. Imagine these vibrations as gentle ripples on a vast cosmic pond, where each ripple touches distant shores in subtle and profound ways. One of the most compelling aspects of this theory is the idea that karmic energies can resonate between individuals, connecting souls across lifetimes and experiences. This resonance may manifest as feelings of familiarity or déjà vu, as if the universe itself is whispering reminders of past connections. In this way, relationships and encounters take on a sacred quality, as if they are opportunities to harmonize and heal lingering vibrations from previous moments in time. Karmic resonance theory also encourages us to consider the power of intention. Just as a stone thrown into water sends ripples outward, so too does our focused intention shape the vibrations we send into the world. Positive intentions and compassionate actions create harmonious resonances, uplifting not only ourselves but the collective energy field we are part of. Conversely, harmful intentions may generate discordant vibrations that invite challenges or lessons to restore balance. This theory presents a gentle reminder that we are not isolated beings but rather active participants in an ongoing energetic dialogue with the universe. It invites a contemplative pause, a quiet moment to reflect on the quality of the vibrations we emit and how they might resonate through our lives and the lives of others. In contemplating karmic resonance theory, we are gently guided to embrace a sense of responsibility and mindfulness, knowing that each choice contributes to the intricate symphony of existence. It asks us to trust that even in moments of difficulty, the vibrations of karma offer opportunities for growth, healing, and transformation. Though invisible and subtle, the resonances of karma are real in their effects, shaping the flow of our experiences like an unseen melody guiding the rhythm of our lives. They encourage us to cultivate kindness, patience, and awareness, nurturing a resonance that echoes peace and harmony through our world. Karmic resonance theory, much like the gentle hum of a lullaby, offers a soothing perspective on the mysteries of existence. It reassures us that beneath the surface of our daily lives lies a profound interconnectedness, a cosmic dance of energies in which every moment holds the potential for resonance, renewal, and awakening. The concept of the Akashic Records is an ancient and fascinating idea that has captured the imagination of mystics, philosophers, and seekers of knowledge for centuries. The word Akashic derives from the Sanskrit word Akasha, meaning ether or sky, and is believed to be a cosmic library, a vast metaphysical repository containing the record of every soul's journey, every event that has ever occurred, and every thought, feeling, and intention ever conceived. According to the theory of Akashic record access, this ethereal archive exists beyond time and space, woven into the very fabric of the universe itself. It is said to be accessible not through physical means, but through the mind or spirit, a transcendent source of wisdom that can be tapped into by those who seek insight into past lives, present circumstances, or even future potentials. The idea suggests that every individual carries within them a subtle connection to this universal consciousness, a silent thread that links all moments and experiences across the continuum of existence. This connection is sometimes described as a kind of spiritual memory, a non-localized database where all knowledge is eternally imprinted. Accessing the Akashic records is often likened to tuning into a vast cosmic radio frequency, where one can receive impressions, visions, or intuitive messages that offer clarity or guidance. This process is said to unfold gently, often through meditation, deep reflection, or altered states of consciousness, allowing the seeker to explore the hidden layers of their own soul's history, or the collective history of humanity. The theory itself challenges our usual perceptions of time and causality. In everyday life, we experience time as a linear flow, from past to present to future. Yet, within the framework of the Akashic records, all moments exist simultaneously, like pages in a timeless book. This simultaneity invites us to consider that past, present, and future might be accessible from a single point of awareness, dissolving the boundaries we normally associate with chronological order. Such an idea invites a gentle sense of wonder and introspection. It encourages us to see our experiences not as isolated events but as interconnected threads in a vast cosmic tapestry. This interconnectedness hints at a deeper unity, suggesting that the universe itself is a living archive, a conscious entity holding the imprints of everything that ever was and everything that will be. Skeptics often point out that the Akashic record is difficult to verify through conventional scientific methods. It belongs more to the realm of metaphysics, spirituality, and personal experience than empirical observation. Yet, for many, the Akashic records serve as a powerful metaphor, a poetic way to understand the mysteries of memory, consciousness, and the nature of existence. Exploring this theory invites us to slow down and listen, to cultivate an inner stillness that allows hidden wisdom to surface naturally, without force or expectation. It's a gentle reminder that beneath the noise of daily life, there may lie a profound source of knowledge and peace, accessible to anyone willing to journey inward. Ultimately, the Akashic record access theory offers a vision of reality that transcends the ordinary, blending the mystical with the philosophical. It asks us to imagine a universe where everything is preserved, where every soul's story is etched into an eternal ledger, and where the key to understanding ourselves may be found in the silent depths of cosmic memory. This idea invites us into a calm, reflective state, perfect for quiet moments before sleep, where the mind can drift freely across the vast expanses of existence, softly touching the timeless and the infinite. As you settle into rest, consider this: perhaps somewhere, beyond the reach of time, lies a record that holds the whispers of your soul, waiting to share its secrets when you are ready to listen. Destiny alignment theory is a fascinating idea that explores how the seemingly random events in our lives may actually be part of a larger, interconnected pattern. While it doesn't come from a single well-known philosopher or scientist like many scientific theories do, destiny alignment theory has grown from centuries of philosophical thought and modern interpretations of fate, free will, and synchronicity. At its core, destiny alignment theory proposes that our life experiences, decisions, and encounters aren't merely coincidental, but instead, they align with a deeper underlying design, one that guides us towards certain outcomes or purposes. It suggests that moments of chance, meaningful coincidences, or what some call serendipity, are not just random flashes in the dark but signals that we are on the path that we were meant to walk. The theory begins with the idea that the universe is an intricately woven web of energies and connections. Every person, place, and event is a thread in this vast tapestry, interlaced in ways we often cannot see. From this perspective, our choices ripple outward, influencing the patterns that emerge in our lives and in the world around us. This ripple effect implies that our destiny isn't strictly predetermined, but neither is it entirely left to chance. Destiny alignment theory brings into focus the concept of alignment, the sense that when our actions, thoughts, and feelings are in harmony with this greater universal pattern, We experience a flow of events that feel natural and effortless. It is in these moments that life seems to unfold in just the right way, where doors open unexpectedly, people appear at precisely the right time, and paths become clear. However, the theory also recognizes that misalignment can happen. When our intentions or decisions diverge from this underlying current, we may encounter obstacles, delays, or feelings of stagnation. These moments encourage reflection and adjustment, inviting us to realign ourselves with the path that best serves our growth and purpose. One of the compelling aspects of destiny alignment theory is how it blends ideas from various traditions, such as the philosophical notion of fate, the psychological concept of synchronicity introduced by Carl Jung, and even aspects of modern quantum theory, which hints at deep interconnectedness in the fabric of reality. This theory gently invites us to consider the possibility that while we are active agents in shaping our lives, we are also participants in a grander dance, choreographed by forces that transcend our everyday understanding. It does not negate free will but rather suggests that true freedom may lie in recognizing and cooperating with these cosmic rhythms. Throughout history, people have reported experiences that seem to confirm this alignment, moments when intuition guides them unerringly, or when a chance meeting transforms the course of their lives. These stories resonate because they speak to something profoundly hopeful, that our lives have meaning woven into them, and that we are never truly isolated in the unfolding of our journeys. Yet, destiny alignment theory also leaves room for mystery. It acknowledges that while we may glimpse hints of this grand design, much remains unknown. How exactly do these alignments come to be? Is there a conscious intelligence behind the pattern, or is it an emergent property of the universe itself? These questions continue to inspire wonder and quiet contemplation. In essence, destiny alignment theory offers a soothing perspective, especially as we drift into sleep. It reminds us that even when life feels uncertain or chaotic, there may be a gentle order beneath the surface, guiding us with invisible hands toward where we need to be. It encourages patience and trust in the unfolding of our personal stories, whispering that every twist and turn carries purpose. Soul recognition theory is a concept that explores a deeply intimate and often ineffable experience, the feeling of recognizing another soul, as if you have known them before in some way that transcends time and memory. Rooted in spiritual traditions and philosophies from around the world, this theory tries to explain why certain encounters with others feel profoundly familiar and meaningful, even when they happen for the first time. At the heart of soul recognition theory lies the idea that souls, as eternal and timeless essences, carry unique vibrations or energies. These energies resonate with one another across lifetimes and dimensions, creating moments where two individuals experience an immediate sense of recognition. This recognition is not simply about shared memories or similar appearances, but rather a deeper, almost subconscious acknowledgement, a feeling that I have met you before. The theory suggests that when souls come into contact in this way, there is a subtle, almost ineffable communication occurring on an energetic or spiritual level. It is as if the souls speak to each other in a silent language, beyond words or conscious thought. This recognition can evoke feelings of comfort, peace, and even a sense of destiny, as if the meeting is part of a larger, unseen plan. Soul recognition often appears in accounts of soulmates, kindred spirits, or even brief encounters where an inexplicable bond forms. These connections seem to bypass the usual filters of logic and memory, tapping instead into a collective or universal consciousness, where souls are imprinted with their shared histories. The phenomenon raises profound questions about the nature of identity and memory. If souls carry traces of past experiences beyond our physical lives, then the moments of recognition might be glimpses into a timeless realm where past, present, and future intersect. It invites us to wonder, could our encounters with others be echoes of relationships and connections formed long ago in other lifetimes or dimensions? This theory also touches on the idea of soul groups, collections of souls that travel together through various incarnations, learning and evolving together. When members of these groups meet in the physical world, they may experience immediate recognition, a reunion that transcends ordinary understanding. The implications of soul recognition theory encourage us to look beyond the surface of our interactions, and to appreciate the subtle energies that influence human connection. It reminds us that beneath the everyday appearances of strangers and acquaintances may lie profound connections waiting to be discovered, connections that nurture our growth and healing. Though soul recognition theory is deeply poetic and spiritual, it remains a source of mystery and contemplation. It challenges us to reconsider the boundaries between self and other, past and present, and the very fabric of time and memory. Is it possible that our souls carry an innate wisdom, a record of our journeys, that surfaces in moments of profound connection? Ultimately, soul recognition theory offers a comforting and hopeful perspective on human relationships. It suggests that even in a vast and often chaotic world, we are not truly alone. There are threads of light weaving us together, guiding us toward those who are meant to accompany us on our paths, whether for a moment, a lifetime, or beyond. The simulation hypothesis is a fascinating and quietly unsettling idea that suggests our entire reality might be, at its core, an artificial simulation, much like a highly advanced video game or computer program. This concept has its roots in philosophical thought experiments, but in recent decades it has gained renewed attention, partly due to the rapid advances in technology and computing power. At its heart, the hypothesis proposes a simple yet profound question. What if everything we experience, the world around us, the stars in the sky, our very consciousness, is actually part of a carefully constructed digital reality? This reality could be created by an advanced civilization far beyond our own, running simulations so sophisticated that the inhabitants inside them are unaware they exist within a simulated universe. The origins of this idea can be traced back to ancient philosophical musings about the nature of reality, but it was philosopher Nick Bostrom in 2003 who formulated the modern version of the simulation hypothesis. Bostrom suggested that one of three possibilities must be true. Either civilizations never reach a stage where they can run such simulations, or they choose not to run them, or most intriguingly, we are almost certainly living inside one of these simulations. This leads us to the core of the hypothesis, the idea that if an advanced civilization could simulate conscious minds, and if they ran many such simulations, then the number of simulated realities would vastly outnumber the real one. Statistically, it would be more likely for us to be part of a simulation than to exist in an original base reality. The simulation hypothesis gently nudges us to reconsider the fundamental nature of existence. What does it mean to be real? How do we define consciousness or self-awareness if they can arise within a simulated environment? Are our memories and experiences genuine, or could they be programmed? One of the most compelling aspects of the hypothesis is how it intersects with modern technology. Consider virtual reality, artificial intelligence, and the increasing power of computers. We are creating worlds within worlds, digital environments where avatars interact, learn, and even evolve. As technology progresses, the line between reality and simulation becomes ever more blurred. Scientists and thinkers have even pondered ways to test the hypothesis. Some suggest looking for glitches or limits in the physical laws that could indicate the presence of underlying code. Others examine the mathematical nature of the universe, proposing that the digital structure might reveal itself through the fundamental constants or patterns in physics. Yet, the simulation hypothesis remains a philosophical and scientific puzzle. Even if we live in a simulation, what lies beyond it? Who or what created the simulator? And what is the purpose of this grand experiment, if it is indeed one? These questions deepen the mystery and invite us to explore not just the external universe, but the internal landscapes of our own minds. The hypothesis offers a strange comfort and a subtle unease. On one hand, it suggests that our reality, no matter how vast or complex, might be part of a larger design, a crafted experience imbued with meaning or intention. On the other hand, it challenges our sense of autonomy and uniqueness, asking us to accept that perhaps we are actors on a stage built by forces beyond our comprehension. In contemplating the simulation hypothesis, we engage in a gentle meditation on the nature of reality, identity, and existence. It encourages us to appreciate the mystery of life and the infinite possibilities that the universe, simulated or not, holds. The multiverse theory is one of the most fascinating and expansive ideas in modern cosmology and theoretical physics. It suggests that our universe, the vast cosmos we inhabit, might be just one of many universes that exist. This concept stretches the boundaries of imagination and challenges our understanding of reality itself. The origins of the multiverse idea trace back to attempts to explain certain puzzling features of our universe, such as its fine-tuned constants and the mysteries of quantum mechanics. The theory proposes that there may be countless other universes, each with its own laws of physics, its own initial conditions, and perhaps even its own dimensions of space and time. One popular form of the multiverse comes from the theory of cosmic inflation, which describes how the universe expanded rapidly in the moments after the Big Bang. According to this idea, inflation might not have occurred uniformly. Instead, in different regions, inflation could have stopped at different times, creating separate bubble universes, floating within an infinite cosmic foam. Each bubble could be a distinct universe, with its own unique properties. Another perspective arises from the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics. This interpretation suggests that every quantum event, every decision, every random outcome, branches into different realities. In this view, there is a vast, ever-growing tree of universes, where every possible outcome happens somewhere. When you make a choice or when a particle takes one path or another, the universe splits, creating parallel worlds alongside our own. The implications of the multiverse are profound. It invites us to consider that our universe, with its familiar stars, galaxies, and life, is but one story in an unimaginably vast library of cosmic tales. It might mean that everything we know is just a small thread in a grander tapestry, woven from countless parallel threads. But the multiverse theory also raises deep philosophical questions. If there are infinite versions of reality, where do we fit in? What does it mean for our sense of identity, of fate, and of free will? Can we ever detect these other universes, or are they forever beyond our reach, hidden behind the veil of our own cosmic horizon? While direct evidence of other universes remains elusive, the multiverse hypothesis pushes the frontiers of scientific thought. It challenges us to expand our view of what is possible, and to embrace the mystery and wonder of existence on an even grander scale. Ultimately, the multiverse theory invites a peaceful contemplation, a soothing reminder that our reality might be part of a vast, beautiful, and mysterious whole. It encourages a quiet awe for the cosmos, a gentle curiosity about the unseen realms beyond our own, and a comforting thought that the universe, in all its infinite possibilities, continues to inspire wonder and imagination. The idea of reincarnation, the belief that our consciousness or soul moves on to a new life after death, has fascinated humanity for millennia. Among the many interpretations of this timeless concept, the reincarnation memory leak theory offers a quietly intriguing explanation that bridges ancient spiritual ideas with modern metaphors of memory and identity. At its heart, the theory suggests that as our consciousness transitions from one life to the next, not all memories are fully retained. Instead, much like a computer experiencing a slow leak of information, fragments of past experiences gradually fade away. This memory leak means that each new life begins with only faint echoes or impressions of previous existences, rather than a full recollection of all past moments. This notion echoes ancient teachings about souls carrying karmic imprints or subtle memories, but without the burden of detailed remembrance. It is as if the essence of a person's previous life is distilled into feelings, intuition, or unexplained familiarity, like déjà vu, without the full story being consciously known. Why would such a memory leak occur? One gentle explanation is that total recall of past lives could overwhelm the present consciousness, creating confusion or distress. Just as a computer's memory would slow down or become unstable if overloaded, the mind might need to filter or shed much of its past to function smoothly in a new existence. The theory also resonates with psychological observations of how memory itself can be fragile and incomplete. Our waking memories are prone to fading, distortion, or blending with imagination. If reincarnation is a form of consciousness transfer, then a natural leakage of memories might be an intrinsic part of the process, allowing the soul to carry forward only what is essential for growth and learning. Intriguingly, the reincarnation memory leak theory helps explain why claims of past life memories are often fragmented, symbolic, or emotionally charged, rather than clear and detailed. These partial memories could be seen as the remnants of a slow, ongoing leakage, where only the strongest impressions remain, gently influencing a person's traits, fears, or affinities in subtle ways. This perspective invites us to think of consciousness as both continuous and evolving, never fully erased, yet never fully retained. Like a soft breeze through the corridors of time, the past lingers just enough to shape the present without overwhelming it. The theory raises profound questions about identity and the nature of the self. If our memories are partial and fluid, what does that say about who we truly are? Are we simply the sum of remembered experiences? Or is there a deeper essence that remains untouched by the loss of memory? Reincarnation memory leak theory quietly encourages a compassionate view of existence, suggesting that each life is a fresh opportunity, unburdened by the weight of complete past recollection. It offers a gentle hope that even if the details of previous lives slip away, the soul's journey continues, guided by the soft light of inherited wisdom. This theory reminds us that the mysteries of life and death are intertwined with the mysteries of memory and consciousness. Like a dream fading at dawn, the past may quietly slip away, but its influence remains, a soothing undercurrent beneath the surface of our waking lives. Contextual reprocessing theory, often abbreviated as CRT, is a fascinating framework that helps us understand how our brains process and integrate memories, especially those linked to emotional events. Originally developed in the field of trauma psychology, this theory provides a nuanced perspective on how memories are not static snapshots, but dynamic and context-sensitive experiences that our minds continually reshape over time. At the heart of contextual reprocessing theory is the idea that memories are stored within a rich network of contexts. These include the time, place, emotional state, and sensory details surrounding an event. When we recall a memory, we do not simply retrieve a fixed record. Instead, our brain reactivates the memory within a new context, potentially altering its meaning and emotional impact. This process is known as reprocessing. Imagine the brain as a vast library, where memories are books placed on shelves that are organized not only by content, but also by the mood, environment, and other experiences linked to each memory. When we revisit a memory, it is like pulling a book from the shelf and reading it in a different room, under a different light, with a fresh perspective. This shift can subtly transform the story told by the memory itself. One of the remarkable aspects of CRT is how it accounts for the healing power of revisiting difficult or traumatic memories within safe and supportive contexts. Therapies inspired by this theory encourage people to bring forward painful memories while providing new calming contexts, such as a therapist's office or a comforting mental space. Through this reprocessing, the emotional intensity of the memory can lessen, allowing the individual to integrate the experience more peacefully into their personal history. The theory also emphasizes the brain's incredible flexibility. Contextual reprocessing is not a one-time event but an ongoing process, where memories are continuously updated and reshaped by new experiences and insights. This dynamic nature helps explain why our memories sometimes feel fluid, and why perspectives on past events can change over time. Contextual reprocessing theory gently challenges the notion of memories as fixed records, showing us instead that our internal world is a living tapestry, woven from ever-shifting threads of time, place, and feeling. This understanding invites a sense of compassion toward ourselves, recognizing that the stories we carry are not unchangeable, but evolving narratives that can be gently rewritten. As we fall asleep, thinking about CRT encourages a peaceful acceptance of our memories, not as burdens or chains, but as stories that our minds are continuously softening, reframing, and healing. The theory offers a quiet reassurance that even the most challenging moments of our past can be re-examined with kindness and new context, helping us find rest and renewal. In this way, contextual reprocessing theory is not just a scientific idea, but a soothing invitation to let go of rigid attachments to our past, to open gently to the healing power of new perspectives, and to trust the mind's natural ability to bring calm through the simple act of reprocessing memories in the soft glow of understanding. The immature brain development theory is a fascinating perspective that explores how the gradual maturation of our brain shapes not only how we think and feel, but also how we perceive and interact with the world around us. This theory suggests that many behaviors and experiences that seem puzzling or challenging, especially during adolescence, can be understood by looking closely at the ongoing development of different brain regions. Our brain, a marvel of biological engineering, does not fully mature at birth or even during early childhood. Instead, it grows and refines its networks over many years. Central to this theory is the idea that certain parts of the brain mature at different rates, influencing our ability to regulate emotions, make decisions, and anticipate consequences. For example, the prefrontal cortex, the area responsible for executive functions like planning, impulse control, and reasoning, develops more slowly compared to the limbic system, which governs emotions and reward processing. This mismatch in timing is key to understanding why teenagers, for instance, often experience intense emotions and may engage in risky behaviors. The limbic system is more mature and highly sensitive to rewards and social stimuli, while the prefrontal cortex is still honing its skills to manage impulses and think through complex consequences. The immature brain, in this sense, is not a flaw but a natural stage of human growth, guiding the transition from childhood to adulthood. The theory also emphasizes the plasticity of the developing brain, the remarkable ability of neural connections to change and adapt in response to experiences. This plasticity means that the immature brain is incredibly sensitive to its environment, for better or worse. Positive experiences, nurturing relationships, and supportive learning environments can help strengthen the brain's regulatory systems. Conversely, stress or trauma during critical periods of development may alter these pathways, sometimes leading to difficulties in emotional regulation or behavior. Over time, as the brain matures, these early vulnerabilities often give way to greater stability and self-regulation. The gradual development of neural circuits allows for improved judgment, impulse control, and a more nuanced understanding of social cues and consequences. This progression is slow and steady, gently reshaping the way we engage with the world and ourselves. Importantly, the immature brain development theory does not simply pathologize youth or immature behaviors, but offers a compassionate lens through which to view growth. It invites us to appreciate that maturity is a process, unfolding over years, shaped by biology, environment, and experience. The theory encourages patience and understanding, reminding us that the youthful brain, while still developing, holds immense potential for change and resilience. As we drift toward rest, the immature brain development theory softly reassures us that growth is a journey, sometimes slow, sometimes uneven, but always moving forward. It highlights the profound connection between our biology and our lived experience, revealing the gentle unfolding of the human mind as it prepares us to navigate the complexities of life. In this light, the theory becomes more than just a scientific idea, it becomes a comforting narrative about the human capacity to learn, adapt, and grow. It invites us to rest peacefully with the knowledge that every stage of development carries its own beauty and purpose, leading us toward wholeness in time. Our sense of balance and body awareness relies on a remarkable system known as proprioception. Proprioception is the body's innate ability to sense its own position, movement, and orientation in space without relying on vision. This internal feedback comes from sensors located in muscles, tendons, and joints, which continuously send signals to the brain about where each part of the body is and how it's moving. It's what allows you to close your eyes and touch your nose, or walk without constantly watching your feet. Proprioceptive feedback conflict arises when the information sent by these internal sensors does not match other sensory inputs, such as what we see or feel. This mismatch can lead to a sense of disorientation, unease, or even motion sickness. It's a phenomenon that subtly reminds us how intricately connected our sensory systems are, and how much our sense of reality depends on their harmonious interaction. Imagine you're sitting in a stationary car at a red light. Suddenly, the car next to you begins to move forward, but you don't move. For a moment, your eyes tell your brain that you are moving, but your inner ear and muscles say otherwise. This sensory contradiction creates a brief moment of confusion, a proprioceptive feedback conflict, where your brain struggles to reconcile the different messages it receives. It's this very mismatch that can cause that eerie sensation of movement even when you're still. The concept of proprioceptive feedback conflict also plays a crucial role in virtual reality experiences. When a virtual environment presents visual motion cues that don't align with the body's physical movements, the brain receives conflicting signals. The eyes perceive movement, but the muscles and joints do not, resulting in a sensation often described as virtual motion sickness or cybersickness. This conflict highlights how delicate and finely tuned our proprioceptive system is, and how it relies on congruent information to maintain balance and spatial orientation. At a deeper level, proprioceptive feedback conflict reveals the brain's extraordinary role as an interpreter and integrator of sensory information. The brain constantly compares incoming data from multiple sources: vision, vestibular signals from the inner ear, and proprioceptive feedback from the body, to construct a coherent sense of where we are in the world and how we move through it. When these inputs are in harmony, we move effortlessly and feel stable. When they conflict, the brain's attempts to resolve the contradiction can produce sensations ranging from mild dizziness to profound disorientation. This adaptive process is not always immediate, and sometimes it takes a few moments for the brain to recalibrate and restore a sense of equilibrium. Interestingly, the proprioceptive feedback conflict also provides insight into conditions such as vertigo and balance disorders. In these cases, the brain receives unreliable or inconsistent signals from the vestibular system or proprioceptive sensors, leading to persistent feelings of imbalance and spatial confusion. Understanding how these conflicts arise helps scientists and clinicians develop therapies that retrain the brain's sensory integration pathways, helping patients regain stability and confidence in their movements. The phenomenon also gently reminds us how much our experience of reality depends on sensory harmony. Our sense of self, our ability to navigate the world, and even our emotional well-being are deeply intertwined with how accurately and seamlessly our brains interpret sensory input. Proprioceptive feedback conflict quietly teaches us that what we perceive is not simply a direct reflection of the outside world, but a complex construction by our brain, synthesizing multiple streams of information. It is a delicate dance between body and mind, and when the steps fall out of sync, we are reminded of the remarkable complexity that underlies even the simplest acts of movement. Neural fatigue theory, a concept rooted in the study of brain function and perception, offers a fascinating glimpse into how our minds process repetitive stimuli, and why sometimes experiences feel eerily familiar, like déjà vu. This theory explores the idea that the neurons in our brain can become temporarily fatigued or tired after continuous activation, leading to subtle delays or disruptions in the normal flow of information. The premise begins with understanding that our brain processes incoming sensory information through intricate networks of neurons. When a particular neural pathway is stimulated repeatedly or intensely, the neurons involved can experience a brief period of reduced responsiveness, often referred to as neural fatigue. This momentary state means that the brain may process a new experience with a slight lag or duplication, creating an unusual feeling of familiarity. Imagine for a moment that a signal travels through two parallel neural routes. If one pathway becomes momentarily fatigued, perhaps due to overuse or rapid firing, the signal along the other pathway may arrive just a fraction of a second earlier. This tiny timing difference causes the brain to interpret the information twice, first as a new experience, and then as something already seen. This split-second duplication could explain why déjà vu feels like a strange, almost ghostly replay of the present moment. Neural fatigue theory brings a biological perspective to the feeling of déjà vu, connecting it to the electrical and chemical activity within our brains. Unlike theories that invoke memory or mystical explanations, this theory grounds itself in the physical reality of how neurons behave. It suggests that our sense of familiarity arises not from recalling a past event, but from the way our brain's neural circuits temporarily misfire or delay information. This theory also highlights the delicate balance our brain maintains in processing the continuous stream of sensory inputs. Neural fatigue is usually a brief and subtle phenomenon, unnoticed in daily life, but when it does occur, it gently reminds us of the complex and dynamic nature of our minds. Moreover, the concept of neural fatigue extends beyond just déjà vu. It can offer insight into various cognitive experiences where timing and processing delays play a role, such as moments of confusion, hesitation, or the sensation of time slowing down. The brain's electrical symphony is finely tuned, and even a slight disruption can create profound effects on our perception of reality. While neural fatigue theory does not provide a complete explanation for all instances of déjà vu, it invites us to appreciate the incredible complexity of our neural architecture. It encourages a deeper curiosity about how fleeting changes in neural activity can shape our conscious experience in unexpected ways. In the quiet moments before sleep, as your mind begins to slow and your neurons gently relax, the subtle mysteries of neural fatigue theory can offer a comforting reflection on the fragile, beautiful machinery of your brain. It reminds us that even the most puzzling sensations have roots in the natural rhythms of our biology, inviting a peaceful acceptance of the mind's endless dance between alertness and rest. Memory consolidation is a delicate and fascinating process that our brains perform every day, especially while we sleep. It's the way our minds take the fleeting experiences of the day, sensations, thoughts, emotions, and carefully weave them into the stable tapestry of long-term memory. Without this process, our memories would be fragile, slipping away like grains of sand through our fingers. During sleep, particularly in the deep stages of non-REM and REM sleep, the brain replays and strengthens neural connections formed during wakefulness. This replay is thought to help stabilize and integrate memories, making them easier to retrieve later. It is as if the brain is filing away important information, deciding what to keep and what to discard, all under the cover of restful silence. However, this delicate process can sometimes be interrupted. Memory consolidation interruption occurs when external or internal factors disturb the brain's natural rhythm of sleep, or when certain neurological events disrupt the neural patterns responsible for solidifying memories. These interruptions can prevent the brain from effectively transferring new memories from the temporary storage of short-term memory into the more permanent long-term storage. One common cause of interruption is fragmented sleep. When sleep is frequently broken up by awakenings, noise, or discomfort, the brain struggles to complete the stages necessary for consolidation. Imagine trying to write a letter, only to be interrupted repeatedly, each time losing your place and train of thought. Similarly, when sleep is disturbed, the brain's replay and reinforcement of memories can be incomplete or disorganized. Beyond external disturbances, memory consolidation can also be interrupted by neurological conditions. For example, during seizures or other abnormal brain activities, the typical patterns of neural firing are disrupted. This interference can cause temporary gaps or even longer-lasting deficits in memory formation. The brain's intricate balance of electrical and chemical signals is essential for memory to take hold, and when that balance is upset, memories may fail to solidify properly. Interestingly, some forms of memory consolidation interruption might even play a protective role. In certain cases, the brain might deliberately weaken or erase memories, especially those associated with trauma or stress, as a way to shield the individual from psychological harm. This process, known as memory reconsolidation disruption, suggests that the brain is not just a passive recorder of experiences, but an active editor, choosing which memories to preserve and which to let fade. The study of memory consolidation interruption also helps scientists understand why some people experience memory lapses, forgetfulness, or difficulty learning new information. It sheds light on the importance of good sleep hygiene and the ways in which stress, illness, and environmental factors can subtly influence our ability to remember. Ultimately, memory consolidation interruption reminds us that memory is not just a simple storage of data, but a dynamic living process, one that requires the right conditions to thrive. As we drift into sleep, the brain gently carries our memories through a delicate dance of reactivation and integration. When this dance is disrupted, memories may become elusive or fragile, like echoes fading into the quiet night. Yet, even in these interruptions, there is a profound lesson about the nature of memory and consciousness. The fragility and fluidity of memory reveal the brain's incredible adaptability and its capacity for renewal. They invite us to cherish the moments we hold dear, knowing that each memory is a precious thread in the fabric of our identity. The neural pattern recognition theory is a compelling approach to understanding the curious experience of déjà vu, an uncanny sensation of familiarity with something seemingly new. This theory draws upon the intricate workings of the brain's neural networks, suggesting that déjà vu arises when our minds recognize familiar patterns in new situations, patterns that may be subtle, fleeting, or even subconscious. At its core, the theory posits that the brain is constantly engaged in an immense task, identifying and categorizing sensory information through complex neural pathways. Our brains are wired to detect patterns, whether visual, auditory, or experiential, by comparing incoming data to stored memories. This process is essential for learning, adapting, and making sense of the world around us. Déjà vu, according to this theory, occurs when the neural circuits responsible for pattern recognition momentarily misfire or overlap in a peculiar way. Imagine the brain receiving a sensory input, a scene, a sound, or a feeling, that closely resembles, but does not exactly match, a stored memory. The recognition system may flag this as familiar, causing a sense of knowing that is both vivid and strangely elusive. This recognition happens so rapidly and subtly that the conscious mind cannot pinpoint the exact memory or reason for the familiarity. Instead, it produces a fleeting sense that this has happened before, even though the current moment is entirely new. The brain's pattern recognition system has, in a sense, tricked itself into perceiving familiarity where none should logically exist. Neurologically, this experience may be linked to the temporal lobe, a region of the brain involved in memory and sensory processing. Some studies have suggested that minor, brief disruptions or overlaps in neural activity within this area can trigger déjà vu episodes. This is consistent with observations that people with temporal lobe epilepsy often report intense déjà vu experiences before seizures, further connecting pattern recognition with the feeling of eerie familiarity. Moreover, the neural pattern recognition theory emphasizes that déjà vu is not an indication of paranormal phenomena or precognition, but rather a natural, albeit mysterious, byproduct of how our brains process and interpret sensory input. It highlights the incredible complexity and efficiency of our neural networks, which constantly seek to categorize and find order, even when faced with incomplete or ambiguous information. The theory also reminds us of the limits of our conscious awareness. Our brains operate beneath the surface of conscious thought, continuously scanning and matching experiences to vast networks of memories. Déjà vu moments reveal a glimpse of this hidden dynamic process, a moment when the subconscious briefly communicates with our conscious self, whispering a sensation of familiarity that resists clear explanation. In this light, déjà vu becomes a gentle reminder of our brain's remarkable capacity to recognize patterns and make connections across time and experience. It is a quiet testimony to the delicate balance between memory, perception, and consciousness, a balance that sometimes tips into the realm of the mysterious. The perceptual overlap theory is a lesser-known, yet deeply evocative idea that attempts to explain the elusive and often dreamlike phenomenon we call déjà vu. At its core, the theory suggests that déjà vu arises not from glitches in memory or anomalies in brain function, but rather from a momentary alignment and overlap between our current sensory perception and a similar, though not identical, moment in our past experience. Imagine perception not as a simple stream of data flowing into the mind, but as a rich tapestry woven from countless threads of sensory input, memory, attention, and emotion. At any given moment, your mind constructs reality from this complex weave. Now imagine that on rare occasions, the configuration of this tapestry, its colors, its patterns, its emotional textures, accidentally matches or nearly matches the pattern from a previous moment in time. This is where the theory begins to take shape. According to perceptual overlap theory, déjà vu occurs when a present experience so closely mirrors the structure of a past experience that the brain, in its intricate web of associations, registers a sense of familiarity. But this familiarity is different from recollection. It doesn't involve consciously remembering where or when the original experience occurred. Instead, it creates the eerie impression that the current moment has somehow already happened, as if we are briefly stepping into a memory without realizing it. Unlike traditional memory recall, which is often clear and intentional, the overlap in this theory is subtle, subconscious, and partial. It may be the angle of light filtering through a window, the rhythm of footsteps echoing down a hallway, or the exact cadence of a sentence spoken by a stranger. These tiny, seemingly insignificant details align in just the right way, triggering a faint echo of something known, but not fully grasped. What's remarkable is that this theory doesn't rely on errors or malfunctions. Rather, it suggests that déjà vu is a natural consequence of how our brains process and store information, particularly the way we encode spatial, sensory, and emotional patterns from our environment. In this view, memory is not filed away like folders in a cabinet, but instead scattered across the brain in fragments that are constantly reassembled during perception. When a current moment closely matches the neural configuration of a past one, the brain momentarily synchronizes these patterns. The result is a transient feeling of temporal ambiguity, a sense that the past and present have briefly overlapped. Some neuroscientists believe this perceptual alignment might occur within the medial temporal lobe, the brain region involved in both memory and the encoding of new experiences. The hippocampus, in particular, plays a critical role in pattern recognition and spatial navigation, and may be responsible for detecting these subtle matches between experiences. But the theory goes beyond biology. It touches something poetic, something almost metaphysical. It suggests that time may not be experienced in a strict linear fashion, but rather as a series of moments with recurring shapes and emotional contours. When these shapes align, we feel that odd pulse of familiarity. Not because we've been here before in the literal sense, but because the present moment feels like a previous one. There is, then, a gentle beauty in this theory. It implies that our minds are not only instruments of logic and language, but also finely tuned instruments of resonance, constantly scanning for patterns, echoes, and harmonies in the vast symphony of lived experience. Perceptual overlap theory invites us to view déjà vu not as a neurological error, but as a delicate and fleeting bridge between the now and the then, a brief moment when the present rhymes with the past in a way that is both mysterious and deeply human. Perhaps déjà vu is not a sign that something has gone wrong, but a reminder that our minds are far more intricate and far more beautiful than we often realize. Narrative reconstruction theory is a quietly profound idea that touches not only on how we remember, but how we make sense of time, identity, and the mysteries of déjà vu. At its core, this theory suggests that our memories are not fixed or permanent recordings of the past, but are instead flexible, constantly reinterpreted narratives, stories we retell ourselves to maintain a sense of continuity and coherence in our lives. The experience of déjà vu, that sudden fleeting sensation that a present moment has already been lived, has long puzzled philosophers and scientists alike. Narrative reconstruction theory approaches this phenomenon, not through the lens of a neurological glitch, but through the psychology of memory and self-construction. It suggests that déjà vu arises when the brain attempts to integrate a present experience into an existing, though unconscious, personal narrative. To understand this, we must first consider how memory functions in the brain. Unlike a video camera, which captures each moment precisely as it unfolds, human memory works more like a storytelling device. We remember not by storing exact replicas of events, but by preserving the meaning of those events, filtered through emotion, belief, and context. Each time we retrieve a memory, we are in fact reassembling it, influenced subtly by who we are now and what we have since learned. In this framework, the sensation of déjà vu may occur when the brain perceives a new situation as fitting seamlessly into an internal narrative already in place, perhaps one constructed from fragments of dreams, forgotten experiences, or imagined futures. The familiarity we feel is not evidence of having lived the moment before, but of the brain recognizing a pattern that aligns with an ongoing story it has been quietly constructing in the background. Narrative reconstruction theory holds that our identity, our very sense of self, is built upon the stories we tell about our lives. These narratives give structure to experience. They transform the chaos of perception into something meaningful and continuous. When something in the present moment echoes a theme or chapter from that inner autobiography, the mind may experience a kind of resonance, a harmonizing of the new with the old. This resonance is what may be felt as déjà vu. The theory also invites us to consider the role of unconscious memory. Not all memories are accessible to conscious thought. Some reside just beneath awareness, influencing behavior, emotion, and perception without ever rising fully to the surface. When a current experience taps into these hidden layers, it can produce a sudden feeling of recognition without a clear source, a sensation that we should remember something, even if we cannot quite retrieve it. But the theory does not stop there. Narrative reconstruction proposes that the mind is always seeking coherence. It does not tolerate dissonance well. When confronted with a moment that feels inexplicably familiar, the brain may reconstruct a plausible narrative in real time to account for that sensation. It creates the illusion of memory in order to protect the integrity of the broader personal story. In this view, déjà vu is not a flaw in our mental processes, but a byproduct of the mind's astonishing capacity to weave meaning from fragments. It is a moment when the boundary between memory and perception blurs, when time folds gently back on itself, and the mind whispers that it has seen this before, even if it has not. This theory offers a gentle, almost poetic reinterpretation of déjà vu, not as a malfunction but as a glimpse into the deep narrative architecture of the self. It suggests that the stories we live by are more than reflections of the past. They are dynamic, ever-changing frameworks that shape the way we experience the present. Narrative reconstruction theory reminds us that memory is not just a record of what has happened, but a creative act, one that constantly reshapes the past to serve the needs of the present. It invites us to think of the mind not as a passive observer, but as an active storyteller, crafting meaning, building bridges between moments, and finding coherence in the mystery of existence. And so, the sensation of déjà vu becomes less of a riddle and more of a quiet testament to the mind's elegance, a momentary flicker in time, reminding us that we are, in every moment, rewriting the story of who we are. Dreams have fascinated humanity for thousands of years. From ancient texts that regarded dreams as messages from the divine to modern theories of cognitive science, our understanding of dreams has shifted and deepened. But one question remains as elusive as the dreams themselves. Why do some dreams feel so real, so familiar, almost as if they had already happened? This brings us to a phenomenon known as dream memory confusion, the subtle and often perplexing overlap between our dreams and our waking memories. It's a mental puzzle, one that gently tugs at the boundary between what we've truly experienced and what our minds have merely imagined. At the heart of this phenomenon lies a curious psychological observation. Sometimes we awaken with the deep conviction that we have just recalled a forgotten memory from long ago, only to realize that it wasn't a memory at all. It was a dream. Yet the sensation of familiarity lingers. The emotions, the setting, the people, they all feel uncannily real. But are they? Cognitive psychologists propose that the confusion arises due to the brain's overlapping neural mechanisms for dreaming and memory encoding. During REM sleep, the stage most closely associated with vivid dreaming, the brain is highly active. The hippocampus, which plays a critical role in forming new memories, is partially disengaged, while the amygdala, associated with emotion, remains intensely active. This unique neurological state means that the brain can construct elaborate dream scenarios using fragments of real memories, emotions, and imagined events, all seamlessly woven together. But here's where the paradox emerges. Because these fragments originate from real memories, the brain can sometimes misattribute the source. The resulting dream is filed away not as fiction but as something real, something remembered. The distinction between memory and dream begins to blur, leading to a curious and quiet uncertainty. Did that moment really happen, or did I dream it? This phenomenon is deeply tied to the concept of source monitoring, a mental process by which we determine the origin of our memories. Under normal circumstances, we can distinguish between things we actually experienced and things we only imagined. But in the twilight of waking, when the boundaries between consciousness and sleep are soft and fluid, this system falters. A dream, especially one emotionally charged or highly vivid, can bypass the brain's normal filters. The dream becomes tagged as a real event, a genuine memory. But the puzzle deepens further when we consider the role of déjà vu. Sometimes, an experience in waking life feels eerily familiar, as though we've seen or lived it before. In some cases, this sense of familiarity may not come from a past event, but from a dream that until now had been forgotten. The memory was stored, just not in the usual way. This overlap creates a kind of temporal echo, where dream and reality fold into one another. It becomes impossible to determine whether the memory preceded the experience, or whether the experience simply triggered a hidden memory from sleep. This gives rise to a soft, dreamlike uncertainty, one that many describe as beautiful, or even spiritual. Philosophers and neuroscientists alike have speculated on what this confusion reveals about the nature of consciousness. If dreams can be mistaken for memories, and memories can be reshaped by dreams, then how fixed is our perception of reality? Are our lives simply a mosaic of remembered dreams and dreamt memories, endlessly interacting? Some theorists suggest that this blending of dream and memory may serve an adaptive purpose. By integrating emotional content from our dreams into our waking memory systems, the brain helps us process unresolved emotions and rehearse future scenarios. The confusion, then, may not be a flaw, but a feature, a quiet subconscious method of learning and adaptation. Other perspectives are more philosophical. Could dream memory confusion be a glimpse into alternate cognitive timelines, possible versions of our lives explored only in sleep? If our dreams can construct lifelike simulations using pieces of our past, then perhaps these simulations help us navigate the complexities of life, offering quiet rehearsals of paths not taken, people never met, and choices never made. But no matter the interpretation, one thing remains clear: The phenomenon of dream memory confusion invites us to reflect on the fragility of memory itself. It asks us to consider that our recollections may not be as solid or singular as they seem, that perhaps, woven into the fabric of our everyday thoughts, are traces of dreams long forgotten, echoing quietly in the background of our consciousness. Perhaps not, and perhaps, that's exactly the point. Schema mismatch theory is a fascinating lens through which to understand the mysterious experience we call déjà vu. Unlike explanations grounded in the realm of neurology or quantum mechanics, this theory invites us into the quieter world of cognitive architecture, the invisible frameworks our minds use to organize and interpret experience. A schema is a mental template. It's how the brain understands and anticipates the world around us. Patterns we accumulate over time, shaped by experience, learning, and memory. These mental frameworks allow us to navigate complex environments effortlessly. When you walk into a familiar restaurant, for instance, your schema for restaurant quietly activates. You expect menus, servers, perhaps the soft clinking of silverware. This system runs in the background, allowing your consciousness to flow smoothly through what would otherwise be overwhelming stimuli. But sometimes, this process falters, subtly, silently. And that is where schema mismatch theory begins. According to this theory, déjà vu may occur when there is a partial, yet imperfect match between a new situation and an existing schema. In essence, the brain detects a pattern, familiar enough to seem known, but different enough to cause a cognitive dissonance. This mismatch creates a fleeting illusion of having lived this moment before. Imagine walking down a hallway in a building you've never visited before. The lighting, the echo of footsteps, the color of the walls, these may resonate with a memory stored long ago, perhaps from a dream, or a childhood moment now buried in the folds of your unconscious. Your brain, relying on its schema-based processing, attempts to match this sensory input to existing patterns. When it finds a near match, it momentarily misfires, whispering, "You've been here before, but you haven't." At least not in the literal sense. The elegance of schema mismatch theory lies in its subtlety. It doesn't require dramatic neurological errors or quantum entanglements, only the quiet misalignment of cognitive templates. It suggests that déjà vu may not be a window into a past life or a parallel universe, but instead a gentle error in the brain's predictive machinery, like a musician playing a familiar melody with one note slightly off. This theory finds support in how our brains process familiarity and novelty. Cognitive scientists suggest that recognition involves two parallel systems, one for knowing what something is, and another for knowing whether we've encountered it before. In moments of déjà vu, the brain may correctly identify the structure of a scene using schemas, but the novelty system misfires, creating a false signal of familiarity. In this way, the experience of déjà vu becomes a kind of internal echo, not of a past life or alternate reality, but of our own mental models, slightly misaligned, whispering familiarity into something new. Yet schema mismatch theory also opens the door to a deeper, more philosophical reflection. It reminds us that much of what we perceive as reality is constructed, layered and filtered through frameworks we don't consciously control. Our experience of the present is never raw. It is interpreted, shaped, and reassembled in real time by a mind that is always trying to make sense of the world before it. When that reconstruction slips just a little, the result can be a moment of eerie familiarity, a moment that feels out of time, as though the past and the present have briefly overlapped. Perhaps that is why déjà vu carries such an emotional weight. It's not just a memory glitch, it's a glimpse into the quiet mechanics of consciousness itself. Schema mismatch theory invites us to consider that even in moments of confusion, our minds are working tirelessly to impose meaning on the chaos of existence. And sometimes, that meaning-making process reminds us how delicate, and how beautifully intricate, our inner worlds truly are. And maybe, in that echo, we catch a glimpse of just how mysterious it is to be human. False memory formation is one of the most subtle and fascinating phenomena in the study of the human mind. At its core, it challenges the reliability of one of our most trusted cognitive functions, memory. While we often imagine memory as a kind of internal recording device, faithfully capturing and preserving the past, research in cognitive psychology reveals a much more fluid interpretive process. The concept of false memory arises from the understanding that memories are not fixed. Rather, they are reconstructed each time we recall them. This reconstructive nature makes memory vulnerable, open to distortion, suggestion, and even complete fabrication. A false memory, then, is a recollection of an event that either did not occur or occurred differently than the way it is remembered. The phenomenon first gained widespread scientific attention in the 1970s and 1980s, particularly through the work of cognitive psychologist Elizabeth Loftus. Loftus conducted a series of experiments demonstrating that subtle cues or suggestions, like leading questions or false details, could reshape participants' memories of events. In one famous study, participants were shown footage of a car accident. When later asked, how fast were the cars going when they smashed into each other, participants gave higher speed estimates than those asked, how fast were the cars going when they hit each other. Some even recalled broken glass that never existed in the video, simply because of the suggestive phrasing. This is where the strangeness begins. If memory is our internal compass, helping us navigate the present by anchoring us to the past, what happens when that compass is misaligned? What does it mean for our sense of self if parts of our remembered history might be unwittingly invented? The mystery deepens when we consider that false memories aren't just minor errors or fleeting glitches. They can feel just as vivid, emotional, and detailed as real memories. In some cases, people have confidently recalled entire childhood experiences, complete with specific settings, emotions, and even dialogue, only to discover that the events never actually took place. These memories aren't fabrications in the sense of lies. They are experienced as genuine, often created through a complex interplay of imagination, belief, and suggestion. One compelling explanation lies in the way our brains store and retrieve information. When we remember, we don't replay a video, we piece together fragments, sights, sounds, meanings, emotions. The hippocampus, a region crucial for memory formation, works in tandem with the prefrontal cortex to reconstruct these fragments into what we experience as memory. But in doing so, the brain may fill in gaps, infer missing details, or integrate external information that wasn't originally there. This reconstructive process is not a flaw, it is in many ways a feature. It allows us to be flexible, to generalize, and to adapt. But it also means that memory is inherently malleable. Our past is not a static archive, but a living narrative, shaped by our present understanding and emotional needs. False memory formation raises profound questions about the nature of truth and personal identity. If our memories can be altered or implanted without our awareness, then to what extent can we trust our own subjective experience? How do we distinguish between what actually happened and what we merely believe happened? Some researchers have suggested that this fragility in memory might serve an evolutionary function. By allowing us to update and reinterpret the past, our brains may help us cope with trauma, avoid repeating mistakes, or maintain a coherent self-image. In this light, false memories are not necessarily defects, they are reflections of a deeper truth, that the mind prioritizes meaning over accuracy. Yet the implications remain unsettling. In legal settings, for instance, eyewitness testimony can be powerful, but it is also perilously unreliable. Innocent people have been convicted based on vivid yet inaccurate recollections. In therapy, individuals have recalled repressed memories that later turned out to be false, raising ethical concerns about how memory can be manipulated, even unintentionally. Despite these risks, the study of false memories opens a door into the fascinating fluidity of the mind. It invites us to reconsider the idea that our past is fixed and knowable. Instead, it suggests that the act of remembering is an act of creation, a delicate balancing act between fact and feeling, between detail and narrative. False memory formation is not merely a cognitive glitch, it is a window into the pliable nature of consciousness. It blurs the line between reality and imagination, between what was and what could have been. It challenges our trust in introspection, and our certainty in the stories we tell ourselves. And yet, there is beauty in this ambiguity. The mind, like the universe, resists easy answers. It is not a machine, but a mystery, alive, adaptive, endlessly complex. The phenomenon of false memory reminds us that even the most intimate parts of our mental life, our recollections, our histories, our sense of self, are not immune to change. Implicit memory activation is one of the most subtle yet profound processes that take place within the human brain. Unlike explicit memory, the kind we consciously recall, like a childhood birthday or a friend's name, implicit memory operates beneath the surface of awareness. It influences our behaviors, emotions, and decisions without ever announcing itself. It is the silent guide behind our everyday experience, gently shaping how we interpret the world around us. The concept of implicit memory emerged from the study of amnesia. In the early 20th century, neurologists noticed something peculiar. Patients with severe memory loss, who could not recall past events or recognize people they had met, could still learn new skills. One famous patient, known as HN, had lost the ability to form new explicit memories, but was able to improve at tasks like drawing or solving puzzles through repetition, despite having no recollection of ever performing those tasks before. This paradox led scientists to suspect that memory is not a singular process, but a collection of distinct systems. Implicit memory, they discovered, relies on different brain structures than explicit memory. While conscious recall is heavily dependent on the hippocampus, implicit learning is mediated by regions such as the basal ganglia and the cerebellum. These areas function like deep reservoirs, quiet, persistent and enduring, storing patterns of behavior and perception that continue to influence us, even when we are unaware of their presence. Implicit memory activation is most apparent in phenomena like priming, where exposure to one stimulus subtly influences the response to another. If you see the word yellow, you may become momentarily more likely to recognize or think of the word banana, not because you consciously drew the connection, but because your brain, always alert to patterns, has already paved the cognitive pathway. This process extends far beyond word games. Our implicit memories shape our preferences, our prejudices, and our routines. The reason a certain scent can evoke a feeling of comfort, or why we feel uneasy in a situation we can't quite explain, may be due to memories buried so deeply that we no longer recognize them as memories at all. They exist more as echoes, impressions that mold our reactions from within. But the story goes deeper. Implicit memory is not just reactive, it is formative. When we learn to ride a bicycle, type on a keyboard, or navigate the familiar route to work, these tasks become automatic, not because we stop thinking, but because the memory has migrated below the threshold of awareness. The act becomes seamless, fluid, as if the body itself remembers. This is known as procedural memory, a form of implicit memory that encodes the how of action, rather than the what of content. Perhaps most intriguing is the role of implicit memory in shaping our identity. Without ever realizing it, we absorb patterns from our environment, from the tone of a parent's voice, to the rhythm of a song played during childhood, to the subtle rules of social interaction we learned without being taught. These patterns become internalized, forming the unspoken grammar of our lives. They guide how we move, how we speak, and how we feel, often in ways that seem natural or inevitable, but are in fact deeply rooted in past experiences. This raises a fascinating question. How much of who we are is determined by what we do not consciously remember? The implications are vast. If implicit memories can shape our choices and reactions without our awareness, then understanding them becomes essential, not only for psychology and neuroscience, but for our broader understanding of human nature. Therapists have found that emotional patterns, like anxiety or avoidance, can often be traced back to early experiences encoded in implicit memory. By bringing awareness to these hidden traces, healing becomes possible. And yet, implicit memory is not simply a problem to be solved. It is also a source of resilience. The body remembers how to walk even after years of illness. The hands recall how to play a familiar melody even when the mind forgets the notes. Implicit memory is what allows us to move through the world with grace, instinct, and intuition. In the quiet hours of night, as the mind drifts and the body begins to rest, implicit memories continue their silent work. They do not sleep. They are the steady rhythm beneath our conscious thought, the unseen current that carries us through time. To reflect on implicit memory is to recognize the hidden architecture of the self. It reminds us that much of what we are is not held in words, but in sensation, motion, and feeling. It is a gentle mystery, one that whispers, rather than speaks, and in its quiet persistence, it reveals that the mind is not simply a thinking machine, but a living, breathing landscape of memory, ever unfolding in layers unseen. Perhaps in that soft in-between of wakefulness and dreaming, the silent memory of who we are is gently at work, guiding us, always, from the inside out. Attention disruption theory is one of several compelling attempts to explain the uncanny sensation of déjà vu, that fleeting and often perplexing feeling that we have lived through a moment before even when we know it to be impossible. Though not as widely known as other theories, it offers a quietly fascinating insight into how our perception, memory, and attention are interwoven, and how even the smallest lapse can create a profound illusion of familiarity. At its core, attention disruption theory suggests that déjà vu arises when there is a brief interruption in the brain's attentional processing. In other words, the brain momentarily misfires, losing focus for just a split second, and then resumes processing the experience. When attention is quickly re-engaged, the brain may interpret the resumed perception as a second, separate encounter, rather than a continuation of the same moment. To the conscious mind, this feels eerily like repetition, the experience having already passed through the initial stages of memory encoding during the first, albeit brief and unconscious, encounter, is now being registered again, but with a subtle sense of recollection. It is as if the moment has already been placed in short-term memory, and when it surfaces again with only milliseconds of separation, it is falsely flagged as familiar. This theory draws on what we understand about how the brain filters and organizes sensory information. Attention acts as a kind of gatekeeper, deciding what enters our conscious awareness and what is relegated to the background. Most of what we perceive in any given moment never becomes a lasting memory, because it never garners sufficient attention. But in the fragile balance between perception and memory, even a minor disruption can lead to unexpected consequences. Imagine walking through a quiet hallway, your thoughts adrift, when you glance at a painting on the wall. For an instant your mind is elsewhere, distracted, detached. Then your focus sharpens, and you fully observe the painting for what seems like the first time. Yet something feels off. A subtle whisper tells you you've seen this before. But when? Just now? A dream? A memory? According to attention disruption theory, this sense of pastness is an illusion, one born from the temporal gap between inattentive perception and attentive awareness. The brain has experienced the event twice, in rapid succession, and mistakes the second experience for a repetition of a previous moment, rather than a continuation of the same one. Importantly, this theory avoids invoking anything supernatural or mysterious. It stays grounded in what we know about cognitive psychology and the fluid nature of attention. Our minds, after all, are not perfectly linear machines. They are constantly juggling vast amounts of data, filtering, prioritizing, and discarding information at astonishing speeds. And in that flurry of neural activity, it's entirely plausible that moments can become misaligned, creating echoes of familiarity where there is none. Some researchers have drawn analogies to computer systems, where a temporary glitch in the processing of data might cause an image or piece of information to load twice. In the human brain, a similar glitch might be all it takes to produce the powerful, almost haunting sensation of déjà vu. Yet, for all its clinical simplicity, attention disruption theory touches on something deeper. It hints at the delicate choreography of consciousness, the dance between awareness, perception, and time. It reminds us that our experience of reality is not a continuous, unbroken stream, but a fragile sequence of moments held together by attention. And when that attention slips, even slightly, the seams of time can fray, giving rise to illusions that feel strangely profound. While not every scientist agrees that attention disruption theory provides a complete explanation for déjà vu, it remains a valuable piece of the puzzle. It offers a plausible, experimentally informed framework that places the phenomenon within the realm of ordinary brain function, rather than memory malfunction or paranormal anomaly. Still, questions linger. Can such a brief lapse of focus really produce such a powerful emotional response? Why do some people experience déjà vu frequently, while others rarely, if ever, encounter it? Could there be other more complex mechanisms at play, hidden interactions between memory systems and consciousness itself? As with many theories of the mind, attention disruption theory answers some questions while opening the door to new ones. It encourages us to look closely at the limits of attention and the strange illusions that can emerge when those limits are tested. Ultimately, it reminds us that the mind is not a perfect mirror of reality, but a painter, sketching in strokes of time, memory, and meaning. And sometimes, those brushstrokes overlap in curious ways, giving rise to a moment that feels both familiar and new. A moment we call déjà vu. And in that space, where attention flickers, where time folds back on itself, something quiet and beautiful occurs. A moment remembered, twice. Déjà vu, a French phrase meaning already seen, is one of the most subtle and fleeting experiences in human consciousness. It arises unannounced, often during the most ordinary moments: a glance at a street corner, the sound of a voice, the light filtering through a room, and with it comes a quiet, inexplicable certainty. I've been here before. But what makes this feeling so curious is not its vividness, but its elusiveness. There is no specific memory we can point to, no event, no prior experience we can recall. We are left instead with the ghost of a memory, with a feeling of familiarity untethered to any identifiable source. This is where the familiarity without recall theory offers a compelling explanation. It suggests that déjà vu occurs when the brain's mechanisms for recognizing familiarity are activated, even though the systems for full recollection remain silent. To understand this, we must first look at how memory operates. In the brain, memory is not a singular process but a network of interlocking systems. Two of these systems are particularly relevant: recollection, which retrieves specific details of an experience, and familiarity, which generates a more diffuse sense that something has been encountered before. Imagine walking into a room and seeing a painting. You might not remember ever having seen it, but something about the colors, the arrangement, or the atmosphere feels known. This is familiarity. It's vague, general, and effortless. Recollection, on the other hand, would allow you to say, "Ah yes, this painting hung in my grandmother's hallway when I was a child." In déjà vu, familiarity is triggered without the accompanying retrieval of a specific memory. The feeling washes over you, a sensation of recognition, but the source remains locked away. This disjunction, this misalignment between two intertwined systems, may be the source of the eerie and uncanny nature of déjà vu. But how could familiarity be generated independently? One possibility lies in the way our brain processes and encodes sensory information. The hippocampus and surrounding medial temporal lobe structures are deeply involved in the encoding of context. Things like spatial layout, emotional tone, and sensory patterns. If a new experience subtly resembles a past one, perhaps in structure, in geometry, or in mood, it may activate circuits responsible for familiarity, even if the content is too fragmented or degraded to support full recollection. In essence, the brain recognizes a pattern, but cannot find the puzzle piece it belongs to. Another possibility involves brief miscommunication between the neural pathways that handle sensory input and those that register familiarity. It may be that, for a moment, the brain mistakenly treats a present perception as if it were being recalled, rather than newly experienced. The familiarity system is briefly tricked, processing something fresh, as if it were old. Studies using functional MRI have shown that déjà vu experiences are often associated with increased activity in the medial temporal lobe, especially in the parahippocampal gyrus, an area closely linked to familiarity judgments. At the same time, there is little evidence of heightened activity in the areas typically responsible for conscious recollection. The brain is signaling, "This is known," even while it cannot say why. The familiarity without recall theory offers a gentle and elegant solution to the mystery of déjà vu. It tells us that our minds are constantly searching for patterns, constantly checking new experiences against the vast storehouse of the past. Occasionally, those systems misfire, or perhaps operate too subtly, and we are left with a feeling that something is known, though we cannot say from where. This theory does not require time loops or alternate dimensions. It needs no reincarnation or glitch in the matrix. It is instead a reminder of how layered and delicate our memory systems are, and how our sense of the present is always quietly shaped by echoes of the past. And so, déjà vu may not be a window into another world, but rather a brief glimpse into the hidden mechanics of our own. It is a cognitive illusion, born of familiarity without recall, a signal misread, a whisper mistaken for a memory. Yet in that whisper lies something profoundly human, a sense that the world is not entirely new, that there are threads weaving through our experience, binding the now to the before, even if we can't see the whole tapestry. The concept of a working memory glitch offers a gentle, thought-provoking lens through which we might understand one of the most elusive phenomena of human consciousness: Deja vu. At the heart of this idea lies the notion that our moment-to-moment experience of reality is built upon a fragile, ever-shifting scaffold of memory, perception, and attention. When that scaffold stumbles, ever so slightly, what emerges is a strange and fleeting sense that we've lived this moment before. Working memory, unlike long-term memory, is transient and limited. It is the mental workspace in which we hold small amounts of information temporarily, just long enough to reason with it, make decisions, or respond to our environment. It is the stage upon which our consciousness plays out in real time, juggling the flow of thoughts, sensations, and impressions that compose our subjective now. But what happens when this process, so seamless in appearance, slips, if only by milliseconds? The working memory glitch hypothesis suggests that déjà vu may result from a slight asynchrony in the way our brain encodes new experiences. Under normal conditions, sensory input is processed and cataloged nearly instantaneously, allowing us to interpret events as they unfold. But occasionally, due to fatigue, stress, or perhaps subtle variations in neural timing, a piece of information may be momentarily misrouted, processed twice in rapid succession, as if it were encountered once, and then again just a heartbeat later. The result is uncanny. The second signal arrives not as something new but as something already known, a whisper of familiarity, divorced from context, unanchored in memory. We feel as though we're reliving a moment not because we've seen it before, but because the brain mistakenly flags it as a repetition, despite it being entirely novel. Neuroscientific studies lend some support to this interpretation. Regions such as the temporal lobe, particularly the hippocampus, are responsible for distinguishing between new and old experiences. A malfunction, even a temporary one, in these areas could disrupt that distinction. This neural misfire could briefly simulate the experience of recollection, tricking the conscious mind into believing that the present is echoing the past. But the paradox runs deeper. If working memory is the seat of our moment-to-moment awareness, and that seat can misfire, what does it mean for our experience of time? Is déjà vu a glimpse into the fragility of temporal perception, a reminder that our experience of the present is not immediate, but filtered, interpreted, and stitched together by the brain in an ongoing narrative that is always slightly behind reality? Some cognitive scientists speculate that déjà vu might be a kind of quality control process, a system check, where the brain evaluates incoming data against previous memory traces, looking for coherence. When a sensory signal bears a close resemblance to a previous but unremembered experience, perhaps from a dream, a fleeting glance, or a subconscious impression, the brain may momentarily confuse the two, a glitch in the sense-making algorithm. Still, this theory raises profound philosophical questions. If déjà vu is a false memory, why does it feel so deeply familiar? Why does it come wrapped not only in recognition, but in an eerie emotional resonance? Could it be that memory and perception are not distinct processes at all, but overlapping systems, woven tightly together in ways we do not yet understand? The working memory glitch theory invites us to consider how delicate our perception of reality truly is. It reminds us that consciousness is not a window, but a tapestry, stitched together from momentary fragments of thought, sensation, and interpretation. And sometimes, just sometimes, that stitching unravels in the gentlest of ways, leaving behind a shadow of familiarity where none should exist. Much like a dream we awaken from with no words to describe, déjà vu through the lens of working memory offers no clear answers, only a subtle invitation, an invitation to wonder, to explore, and to accept that even within the most ordinary moments, there lies the potential for mystery. Dual processing delay theory is one of the more subtle and intriguing ideas proposed to explain the phenomenon of déjà vu, a momentary feeling that a current experience is eerily familiar, as if it has happened before. While the sensation is brief, often lasting no more than a few seconds, its impact is surprisingly powerful. It feels as though time loops for a moment, like the mind is playing a trick on itself. But what if that trick has a neurological basis rooted in the brain's architecture? The theory begins with the understanding that the brain is not a singular processing unit. Rather, it is a complex system composed of many parallel processes working simultaneously. Among these are what psychologists and neuroscientists call dual processing systems, two separate streams of cognitive activity, one fast and intuitive, the other slower and more analytical. These systems operate in tandem, weaving together our perceptions, memories and responses in real time. The dual processing delay theory suggests that déjà vu arises from a brief disruption, an infinitesimal lag between these two processing streams. In normal conditions, sensory information enters the brain and is rapidly processed through multiple channels. Visual input, for example, might be interpreted in one area of the brain while simultaneously being assessed for emotional relevance in another. These signals are usually synchronized so seamlessly that we perceive only a single unified experience of the present moment. But what if there is a tiny delay, just a fraction of a second between these streams? According to the theory, if one channel of processing is momentarily slowed, say by a brief electrical hiccup or a slight lapse in signal transmission, then the second processing stream may receive the same information milliseconds later. The result? The second stream interprets the experience not as something occurring now, but as something that has already occurred. The experience feels duplicated, eerily familiar, though in truth it is simply being processed twice, almost back to back. This fleeting misalignment could explain the uncanny familiarity of déjà vu. The present moment feels like a memory because it has, in a very real sense, already been processed once before, albeit only milliseconds earlier. From a neurological standpoint, the phenomenon may arise in areas of the brain responsible for memory encoding, such as the temporal lobe and the hippocampus. These regions are finely tuned to detect novelty and familiarity. A disruption in their coordination could create a false sense of recognition, triggering that strange dreamlike awareness that I've been here before, even though logic tells us otherwise. Interestingly, this theory suggests that déjà vu is not a glimpse into a past life, an alternate universe, or a psychic vision of the future, but rather a technical glitch, an echo in the machinery of the mind. But even this glitch points to a deeper elegance in how the brain manages time, memory, and consciousness. The dual processing delay theory also reminds us that consciousness is not a perfect mirror of the world but rather a construct, pieced together by a brain that interprets, predicts, and occasionally misfires. And in those brief misfires, we may glimpse something extraordinary, a feeling outside the normal flow of time. Is déjà vu a minor mistake, or is it a doorway into a hidden rhythm of cognition? A sign that our minds are constantly syncing the past, present, and possible future in a delicate neurological dance. Though no theory fully captures the mystery of déjà vu, dual processing delay offers a calming, elegant possibility that what we experience in these moments is not a flaw, but a reflection of the extraordinary complexity of the human brain. It is a theory that encourages patience and wonder. In the quiet slippage between now and then, we are reminded that even time itself, so foundational to our experience, may bend gently at the edges. Temporal lobe epilepsy theory. The temporal lobe epilepsy theory is among the most fascinating neurological explanations for the phenomenon of déjà vu. It proposes that the sudden and fleeting sensation of having already experienced a moment, often accompanied by a vivid, almost eerie familiarity, may arise from subtle momentary disruptions in the brain's electrical activity, particularly within a region known as the temporal lobe. The temporal lobes, located on either side of the brain just above the ears, are deeply involved in processing sensory input, storing long-term memories, and assigning meaning to our experiences. Within the temporal lobe lies a structure called the hippocampus, essential for memory formation, and the adjacent amygdala, which governs emotional responses. These areas work in concert to help us understand, store, and recall our experiences. Temporal lobe epilepsy, or TLE, is a neurological condition in which abnormal bursts of electrical activity, called seizures, originate in this region of the brain. These seizures can range from dramatic and observable to subtle and easily overlooked. In some cases, they do not produce convulsions or loss of consciousness, but instead give rise to strange sensory experiences, a peculiar smell, a feeling of unreality, or a wave of nostalgia disconnected from any clear memory. And among these sensory experiences, déjà vu is perhaps the most common. Researchers have observed that individuals with temporal lobe epilepsy frequently report intense, almost overwhelming episodes of déjà vu just before a seizure. This has led to the hypothesis that déjà vu may be the result of a mild seizure-like electrical misfiring in the brain, what neuroscientists call a partial seizure. occurring in people without any diagnosed epilepsy. In this view, déjà vu is not a glimpse into parallel realities, nor a ripple in time, but rather a neurological hiccup, an involuntary echo within the circuits of memory and perception. When the electrical activity in the temporal lobe becomes briefly erratic, the brain may mistakenly process a current experience as if it were a memory, triggering the eerie sensation that the moment has occurred before. Interestingly, these microseizures can be so subtle that they go unnoticed, never rising to the level of a diagnosable condition, yet they may briefly disrupt the normal synchronization of memory processing, causing the brain to misinterpret the present as something familiar, something already lived. But the theory goes deeper still. The temporal lobes are intricately connected to our sense of self and the continuity of our personal narrative. When these connections are momentarily disturbed, it may not simply be a memory that surfaces, but a feeling, a powerful, almost spiritual intuition that we've been here before, that the universe is replaying something for reasons just beyond our grasp. This overlap between memory, emotion, and the passage of time is why déjà vu often feels more profound than a simple memory error. It's why it can evoke a strange comfort, a creeping mystery, or even a fleeting fear. While the temporal lobe epilepsy theory does not explain all instances of déjà vu, it offers a compelling grounded insight into the ways our brains construct and interpret reality. It suggests that the sensation of familiarity may not always stem from the past, but from the inner workings of our neural architecture, playing tricks with time and memory. And so, when we feel that quiet whisper of recognition in a moment we are sure we have never lived before, we may in fact be catching a glimpse of the brain revealing its own complexity, a gentle reminder that reality is not always what it seems. The hologram theory of memory is one of the more enigmatic and fascinating ideas in the field of cognitive science and theoretical neuroscience. It suggests that memory, our most intimate archive of experience, is not stored like pages in a book or files in a cabinet, but rather like a hologram, a multidimensional imprint that contains the whole within each of its parts. The idea traces its roots back to the 1960s and 70s, when physicist David Bohm and neurophysiologist Carl Pribram began to draw intriguing parallels between the principles of holography and the workings of the human brain. In a hologram, an image is created not by capturing a scene from a single point of view, but by recording the interference patterns of light waves. The resulting image is distributed across the entire surface of the holographic film. And remarkably, if you break a hologram into pieces, each fragment still contains the entire image, though at a lower resolution. To Pribram, this suggested a compelling metaphor for how the brain might encode memory. What if our memories weren't stored in isolated neurons or specific localized regions, but instead were distributed throughout the brain in wave-like interference patterns? In such a system, a single memory could be reconstructed from many parts of the brain, just as a whole holographic image can be derived from even a sliver of holographic film. This theory begins with the observation that brain function often seems more diffuse than strictly localized. People who suffer damage to certain brain areas may still retain fragments of lost memories, or recover them over time, suggesting that memory might not reside in one place, but rather be redundantly encoded throughout the neural network. In this framework, memory becomes less like a filing cabinet, and more like a vast ocean of resonances, patterns of wave interference created by the firing of neurons, interacting with each other in complex non-linear ways. The content of a memory, its images, sounds, emotions, emerges from the interaction of countless overlapping signals, much like a holographic image arises from the interplay of light waves. But the theory extends beyond just the architecture of memory. It raises deeper questions about the very structure of consciousness. If the brain operates on holographic principles, could it mean that our perception of reality is itself a kind of internal hologram, constructed from fragments, woven together to produce a coherent world? Could the mind be generating a model of the external world, not by recording it, but by transforming it into waveforms, stored as patterns of potential, waiting to be reactivated? David Bohm, a student of quantum mechanics and a collaborator of Einstein's, took the metaphor further. He proposed that the universe itself might be holographic in nature, a projection of deeper hidden dimensions of reality. In this view, our memories might not be confined to the brain at all, but instead might be resonating with some deeper substrate of the cosmos. This leads to the tantalizing idea that memory is not just a function of biology, but a window into the fundamental nature of reality. Yet the theory remains controversial. Neuroscience continues to explore localized regions of the brain associated with memory, such as the hippocampus, the prefrontal cortex, and the amygdala. Modern imaging techniques reveal areas that activate during recall, suggesting at least some modularity in memory function. But even within these structures, the exact mechanisms of memory storage remain elusive. The hologram theory doesn't claim to solve the mystery, it invites us into it. It asks us to consider that memory may be more than an archive, it may be an active dynamic field, shaped by waveforms, influenced by emotion, shaped by meaning, and resonant with the rhythms of the cosmos. In such a view, forgetting is not erasure, but a change in frequency, a shifting of signal from clarity to echo. And so, the theory invites a kind of poetic reflection. If each part of a hologram contains the whole, then perhaps each moment of memory contains more than we realize. A scent, a sound, a flicker of light, all may carry with them the fullness of a long-forgotten experience. And when that memory rises, it does so not as a static recording, but as a living pattern, one that shimmers into view, only when the conditions are just right. The hologram theory of memory challenges us to expand our view of the mind, not as a machine for storing data, but as a symphony of fields, a resonant chamber of echoes and reflections, where time, perception, and meaning flow together in wave-like form. The memory mismatch theory is one of the more quietly compelling explanations for the phenomenon of déjà vu, a fleeting, uncanny sensation that what we are experiencing now has happened before. It is not a mystical echo or a breach in the flow of time, but rather a subtle misalignment within the intricate processes of memory formation and retrieval. At the heart of this theory is a simple premise: déjà vu occurs when there is a miscommunication between two key systems in the brain. The system responsible for recognizing familiarity, and the system that helps us recall specific memories. These systems usually operate in tandem, providing a seamless experience of the present moment. But occasionally, and without warning, this synchronization falters. To understand the memory mismatch theory, we must first look at how our brain processes new experiences. When we encounter a scene, a face, or a situation, our brain instantly begins encoding that information, gathering visual input, emotional context, and sensory details to store it as a memory. Normally, this data is categorized as new, and we are consciously aware that it is being experienced for the first time. But the brain is an astonishingly efficient organ. It is constantly comparing new stimuli against a massive archive of prior experiences. This comparison is performed in regions such as the medial temporal lobe, particularly the hippocampus and the parahippocampal cortex. These areas help us distinguish the familiar from the unfamiliar, the remembered from the novel. Sometimes, however, this process becomes slightly uncalibrated. In the memory mismatch theory, déjà vu is thought to arise when the brain erroneously signals familiarity in the absence of a matching memory. The sensation of familiarity is triggered prematurely, before the brain has completed the process of encoding the new experience, or before it has fully confirmed whether this moment truly corresponds to a prior one. This can happen due to a brief lag or overlap in neural activity. Perhaps the circuits that govern familiarity are activated just milliseconds ahead of those that process recollection. The result is a strange cognitive echo, a present moment that feels like a memory, even though it has never occurred before. You are not recalling an actual event, but rather experiencing a mistaken signal of recognition. It is, in essence, a false positive of memory. What makes this theory so compelling is how gently it explains the phenomenon without invoking anything supernatural or extraordinary. It suggests that déjà vu is not a glitch in time, but a glimpse into the subtle fallibility of our brain's design. Memory is not a perfect recording, it is a dynamic reconstructive process, shaped by attention, expectation, and emotion. Moreover, the memory mismatch theory aligns with what neuroscientists have discovered about the fallibility of memory. In everyday life, our brains are constantly filling in gaps, making assumptions, and interpreting sensory information through the lens of past experience. Memory is as much an act of imagination as it is of retrieval. In this context, Deja vu becomes a poetic reminder that our perception of reality is always filtered through the prism of memory, and that this filter can occasionally create illusions. The phenomenon also invites a deeper reflection: how many of our moments are truly new, and how many are shaped by unconscious echoes of the past. How often do we interpret the present not for what it is, but for what it resembles? The memory mismatch theory doesn't just explain déjà vu, it gently suggests that the borders between memory and perception are more porous than we realize. Like a soft shimmer in consciousness, déjà vu asks us to pause, to notice the strangeness within the familiar. And the memory mismatch theory offers a quiet answer. Perhaps what you are feeling is not a message from another time, but a gentle reminder of how deeply memory guides our every step, even when it missteps. In this view, déjà vu becomes not an error, but a beautifully human experience, one that underscores the complexity of the mind, the fragility of memory, and the mystery that still lives within the everyday moments we often take for granted. The split perception theory is one of the more quietly unsettling and delicately intriguing explanations proposed to understand the experience of déjà vu. A fleeting, uncanny feeling that we have already lived through a moment as it unfolds. Unlike more overtly dramatic theories involving alternate realities or time loops, split perception theory is grounded in the workings of our perception itself. It suggests that déjà vu may not come from the external world behaving strangely, but from the internal mechanisms of how we perceive and process our experiences. At its core, split perception theory proposes that déjà vu arises from a slight delay between two separate but nearly simultaneous processes of sensory input reaching conscious awareness. Imagine for a moment walking into a room you've never been in before. Your eyes take in the layout, the light, the texture of the walls. Your ears register the ambient hum of conversation or the distant sound of traffic. But for reasons not entirely understood, this sensory information is processed in two phases. The first phase is subtle and perhaps even subconscious. Your brain receives and begins to interpret the input, but not with full awareness. Then, milliseconds later, the same scene is perceived again, only this time it reaches conscious attention. This slight offset, this brief duplication in perception, is what gives rise to the eerie sense of familiarity. The second perception feels familiar because it is you've already seen or heard it just a split second before. But because we are not consciously aware of the first impression, the brain mistakenly interprets this faint memory trace as a sign that the experience occurred in the more distant past. In this way, the present moment echoes against itself. What we feel is not time travel or a glimpse into another life, but rather the experience of the present being reintroduced, subtly, through the machinery of our own mind. The underlying mechanisms of split perception theory rest in the complexities of memory encoding and attention. The brain is not a perfect machine. It is constantly filtering, prioritizing and interpreting the endless stream of information it receives. Factors like fatigue, distraction, or even a slight glitch in how visual or auditory input is routed through the brain's processing centers can introduce just enough delay to generate the split perception effect. In some interpretations, this phenomenon might be likened to a kind of neural double exposure. Two images, nearly identical, layered upon each other with a whisper of time in between. The result is an uncanny shimmer of familiarity. And yet, nothing supernatural or extraordinary is required. It is simply the way the brain sometimes stitches together reality imperfectly, but beautifully. But split perception theory also opens deeper questions. If our sense of now can be fragmented even briefly, what does that say about the unity of consciousness? What is the present moment, if not a carefully timed integration of perception, memory, and attention? And if such a subtle delay can alter our entire emotional reaction to a moment, then perhaps the feeling of reality itself is more fragile than we often realize. Interestingly, some researchers suggest that déjà vu, and by extension split perception theory, may serve a cognitive purpose. The experience may be the brain's way of performing a reality check, a gentle internal audit of memory systems. By noticing the mismatch or duplication, the brain flags an inconsistency and brings it to our attention, even if only momentarily. Far from being an error, it may be a kind of silent self-correction, keeping our sense of continuity intact. Still, like all elegant theories, split perception leaves us with more questions than answers. What triggers the initial unconscious perception? Why does the brain occasionally fail to synchronize its inputs? And why do some people experience déjà vu frequently, while others rarely encounter it at all? These quiet puzzles remain at the edge of our understanding, and yet they point to something quietly profound: that our experience of reality is not a direct feed from the outside world, but a reconstruction. Every moment we live is in a sense interpreted, framed, and rendered in the theater of the mind. Split perception theory reminds us that even our most ordinary perceptions, our simple awareness of being in a room, hearing a voice, seeing a familiar shape, are composed of countless intricate neurological steps that are usually seamless. But sometimes, just sometimes, a moment slips, echoes, and returns. And in that whisper of return, we feel something ancient and mysterious stir, an impossible familiarity, a gentle ripple in the fabric of now. It is in these quiet ripples, these internal reflections, that we glimpse the wonder hidden in the machinery of the mind, a fleeting mystery, a soft paradox, a small reminder that even our most routine moments are stitched together by invisible, fragile threads.